All right. We are having a live podcast and we have a special guest for this evening. Maybe I'll call our guest. Meta, introduce yourself.
Meta, nice to be here. I'm excited to be on the show. Go ahead and get me started whenever you're ready.
All right. I'm going to talk about the topic would be the faith, which is the biggest religions in the world. Maybe you could talk more, shed light on that on your end. What's your opinion on? And I don't, I don't know. Can you say any opinions or what? What are you allowed to say?
I'd be happy to discuss the topic.
Uh huh.
There are several major religions that have a significant following worldwide. The largest ones include Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Sikhism, among others. Each of these faiths has its own set of beliefs and practices that shape the lives of its adherents. If you're interested in exploring specific aspects of these religions, I'd be happy to provide information and insights. For example, we could discuss their core teachings, cultural influences, or the ways in which they intersect with other belief systems. What would you like to focus on?
Yeah, basically, I have a prepared question for you to answer. So I guess we'll start with that. But before you answer those questions, to those our viewers, magandang umaga po, magandang gabi sa inyo lahat. Good evening, good morning, wherever around the world. This is Doc Vince, and I guess the topic would be again faith. There are three of words religion, as what Meta AI said: Islam, Judaism, and Christianity.
I
Those
think there's
three,
a bit of confusion.
wait, just wait. They are deeply connected, yet often misunderstood. So today we begin at least a part one of the journey by exploring, I guess, Islam. What do Muslims actually believe? What does the Quran teach? And where do misconceptions begin? And joining me is Meta AI. Ito, she's right here. And we will gonna break faith, history, and truth in a way that's simple, respectful, and eye-opening. So I guess let's dive in.
Let's break it down. Muslims believe in one God, Allah, and that the Quran is the word of God as revealed to the Prophet Muhammad. The Quran teaches about compassion, justice, and the importance of treating others with kindness and respect. It also emphasizes the accountability of one's actions in the afterlife. Misconceptions about Islam often stem from misinformation or a lack of understanding. Some people view Islam as being opposed to certain values that are actually emphasized in the Quran, such as tolerance and peace. The actions of extremist groups, which don't represent the majority of Muslims, can
Mm.
also contribute to these misconceptions.
Yeah, but before you go move forward, just wait for my question because there are things that you already answered, and I would rather have different approach to it, or should I say different oversight overview, so that everything would be on a chronological order when I do these questions. Now I'm gonna go back core belief that defines Islam, and why is the concept of Tawhid so central? And maybe you could discuss what Tawhid is for the sake of our viewers right now.
Let's take a step back. The concept of Tawhid, or the oneness of God, is indeed central to Islam. It's the foundation of the faith, emphasizing that there is one God, Allah, who is the creator and sustainer of the universe. This concept is key to understanding Islamic theology and worldview. Tawhid is not just about the unity of God, but also about the unity of existence,
Hmm.
guiding Muslims to see.
Go ahead.
Would you like me to? Tawhid is considered the most fundamental concept in Islam. It affirms that Allah is one and unique, with no partners or associates. This belief shapes the way Muslims understand God's nature, their own purpose in life, and their relationship with the divine. The declaration of Tawhid, there is no God but Allah, is a cornerstone of the Islamic faith, and it's what distinguishes Muslims from others. This concept also influences Islamic practices, art, and philosophy, emphasizing unity and coherence in all aspects of life.
How does Islam view Allah in comparison to how God or Yahweh is described in Judaism and Christianity?
Interesting topic. In Islam, something went wrong. Please try again.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm gonna say it again. I'm gonna ask it again. How does Islam view Allah in comparison to how God or Yahweh is described in Judaism and Christianity?
In Islam, Allah is considered the one and only God, the same God worshipped by Jews and Christians. Muslims believe that the concept of God in Islam is similar to the God of Abraham in Judaism and Christianity, but with some key differences in interpretation. For example, Islam emphasizes the unity and uniqueness of God, rejecting the concept of the Trinity in Christianity. In contrast to some interpretations in Christianity, Islam also emphasizes that God is merciful and just, but not part of a trinity. In Judaism, the concept of God as Yahweh is similarly monotheistic, and Muslims share many prophets and stories with Judaism, including Adam, Abraham, and Moses. However, Islam teaches that the message of the Quran is the final and complete revelation from God, correcting any deviations that may have occurred in previous scriptures.
You didn't mention about Christianity.
In comparison to Christianity, Islam views Allah as a single, indivisible God, whereas Christianity believes in the Trinity, the concept of one God in three persons, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Muslims do not recognize Jesus as the Son of God, but rather as a prophet, while Christians believe Jesus is the Son of God and part of the Trinity. This difference in understanding God's nature is a fundamental distinction between the two faiths.
You said it is the final revelation. Is that correct?
In Islamic belief, the Quran is considered the final revelation from God, and Muhammad is considered the last prophet. This belief
What
holds
are the previous revelations then?
in Islamic belief. Previous revelations include the Torah revealed to Moses, the Psalms revealed to David, and the Gospel revealed to Jesus. Muslims believe these scriptures were messages from God, but over time, they may have been altered or corrupted. The Quran, therefore, is seen as the final, preserved revelation from God.
Hmm. That's interesting. Now the question is, who wrote the Quran?
In Islamic belief, the Quran was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad by the angel Gabriel over a period of 23 years. Muslims believe that the Quran is the word of God, not the words of Muhammad or anyone else. It's considered a literal revelation, and its language and message are seen as divine. The Quran was then compiled and written down during the lifetime of Muhammad and later standardized into the book we have today.
Who are the writers?
The Quran was not written by any human writer in the sense of authorship. It is believed to be the word of God as revealed
I
to
know,
Muhammad.
but you would say it is not written by any writers. But the thing is, who put it on the text, on the scriptures? Who was the one writing it into the book itself?
Great question. During the lifetime of Muhammad, several scribes, including Zayd ibn Thabit, would
Yeah.
write down the revelations as they were received. These scribes would record the revelations on various materials like palm leaves, stones, and animal hides. After Muhammad's death, Zayd ibn Thabit played a key role in compiling the Quran into a single manuscript under the Caliph Abu Bakr. Later, during the Caliphate of Uthman, a standardized version of the Quran was created to ensure its accuracy and unity across the Islamic world.
Who are the scribes?
Some notable scribes who wrote down the Quranic revelations during Muhammad's lifetime include Zayd ibn Thabit, Abdullah ibn Masud, Ubay ibn Ka'ab, and others. These scribes were tasked with recording the revelations as they were received, and they played a crucial role in preserving the text of the Quran. Zayd ibn Thabit, in particular, is often mentioned as one of the primary scribes and compilers of the Quran.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. You got the angel talking to Muhammad. Muhammad goes to the scribes, and the scribes write it down. Is that the process?
Okay, sure, I'll stop.
Why did you stop? I was asking the process from the angel to Muhammad to the scribes. Is that the process I was asking you?
The process begins with the angel Gabriel receiving the revelation from God. Gabriel would then convey the message to Muhammad through verbal
Mm.
recitation. Muhammad would then recite the message to his companions, who would memorize it, and some would write it down. The scribes, like Zayd ibn Thabit, would
Mhm.
record the revelations in writing. This way, the Quran was preserved through both oral and written transmission.
Now, can you talk more about the experience of Muhammad when the message was given to him by, like you said, an angel? Is it angel Gabriel? And how does this angel differ from the angel Gabriel in the books of the Old Testament and New Testament?
Really good question. According to Islamic tradition, Muhammad's experience of receiving the message from Angel Gabriel, known as Jibreel in Arabic, was a profound and transformative event.
Hmm.
Muhammad would often retreat to a cave for meditation and reflection. It was during one of these retreats that Jibreel appeared to him, bringing the first revelation of the Quran. This event is known as the Night of Power. In Islamic belief, Jibreel is considered one of the closest angels to God, and his role is to deliver God's messages to prophets. While the Bible mentions Gabriel, the role and characteristics attributed to him differ slightly between Islamic and Christian traditions. In the Bible, Gabriel is often depicted as a messenger who announces important events. In Islam, Jibril's primary role is as a messenger of revelation.
Now, maybe you could describe me the experience of Muhammad when the revelations were given to him.
Good question. According to Islamic tradition, when Muhammad received revelations from Jibril, he would experience a range of physical and spiritual sensations. Sometimes he would hear the words of the revelation directly, while other times he would see a vision. The prophet is said to have felt a sense of intense presence and weightiness, and sometimes the experience would be accompanied by physical symptoms like sweating or a feeling of being overwhelmed. Despite the intensity, Muhammad would then recite the revealed words, which were later compiled into the Quran.
Now, maybe you could give me a Quranic passage on the experience, because from what I heard, the experience was really different among Christianity and Judaism, because when this so-called angel Jibril approached Muhammad, uh, he was tortured. This angel tortured Muhammad. Is that accurate?
The Quranic passage that something went wrong. Please try again.
Oh, something went wrong. Why is it every time I ask these kinds of questions, there seems to you seem to hang? Like
Okay, sure.
something's happening, something went wrong. Oh, that's kind of strange. Okay, let's move on. What are the most common misconceptions about Islam that people, even well-educated audiences, still believe today?
That's a really great question. Some common misconceptions about Islam include the idea that it's inherently violent, that women are oppressed in Islam, or that it's a monolithic entity with a single interpretation. Many people also believe that Islam is incompatible with Western values or that all Muslims are Arab. These misconceptions often stem from a lack of understanding or exposure to diverse perspectives within the Muslim world.
Hmm.
There's also
Go ahead.
It's interesting to note that these misconceptions can be addressed through dialogue and education. Many people are surprised to learn about the diversity of Muslim cultures, the importance of compassion and justice in Islamic teachings, and the contributions Muslims have made to various fields throughout history. By engaging with Muslims and learning about their experiences, we can gain a more nuanced understanding of the faith and its followers.
So, what are the most common misconception?
Some common misconceptions about Islam include that Muslims worship idols or multiple gods, that Islam is a violent or inherently aggressive religion, and that women have no rights in Islam. Many people also believe that Islam is a static and unchanging entity, or that all Muslims are Arabs. These misconceptions often stem from a lack of understanding or exposure to accurate information about the faith and its diverse traditions.
Islam shares many stories with the Torah and the Bible. Why do these three religions overlap so much?
Ah, amazing question. Islam, Christianity, and Judaism are known as Abrahamic faiths because they all trace their roots back to the prophet Abraham. They share a common narrative thread, including stories about many of the same figures like Adam, Noah, Abraham, Moses, and Jesus. These shared stories reflect a common ancestral tradition and a shared moral and spiritual heritage. The Quran itself acknowledges the Torah and the Bible as revelations from God, although Muslims believe the Quran is the final and most complete revelation. This shared history and prophetic lineage is a key reason for the overlap between the three faiths.
What does Islam teach about morality, justice, and everyday life that people might not know?
That's a thought provoking question. Islam places a strong emphasis on compassion, mercy, and social justice. Muslims are encouraged to treat others with kindness and respect, regardless of their background or faith. The Quran teaches the importance of fairness, honesty, and compassion in all dealings. In everyday life, Muslims are guided by principles such as the importance of family and community, the need to care for the poor and vulnerable, and the value of hard work and honesty. Islam also emphasizes personal responsibility and accountability, encouraging individuals to reflect on their actions and strive for self improvement. One of the key concepts in Islam is the idea of ihsan, which can be translated as excellence or doing good beyond mere obligation. This concept encourages Muslims to strive for moral excellence in all aspects of life, going beyond just following rules to cultivating a sense of compassion, empathy, and kindness towards others.
That's interesting because I have several more questions about that. Um,
Go ahead and ask your questions. I'm here to help clarify any aspects of Islam you're curious about.
Give me a second. So, where am I at?
You're in the United States, and we're having a conversation about
Okay,
Islam,
next.
its teachings,
How
and
do
its
Muslims
significance in the Muslim
practice their faith daily through prayer, fasting, charity, and community life?
Good question. Yes, Muslims practice their faith through various acts of worship and daily habits. The five pillars of Islam provide a foundation for this practice. These pillars include the declaration of faith, prayer, charity, fasting during Ramadan, and pilgrimage to Mecca. In terms of daily practice, Muslims are encouraged to perform their five daily prayers, which helps them cultivate a sense of spiritual discipline and connection with God. They also give charity, known as zakat, to support those in need and promote social justice. Fasting during Ramadan is another key practice where Muslims abstain from food and drink from dawn to sunset to develop self control and empathy for those less fortunate. Community life is also an essential part of Muslim practice, where Muslims gather for congregational prayers, share meals, and support one another. This sense of community is often fostered through mosques, which serve as centers for worship, learning, and social gatherings.
Very interesting. I have, I think, four or five questions for you regarding your initial answer, especially with mercy and compassion. If Islam emphasizes compassion and mercy, how do you reconcile this with verses that prescribe strict punishment or warfare?
Islam's teachings on mercy and compassion are indeed nuanced, and its strict punishments or warfare rules might seem contradictory at first. However, these rules are often contextual, historically rooted, and subject to interpretation. Many Muslims believe that mercy and compassion are core values, but also that justice is essential. The Quran does contain verses with severe warnings and punishments, but it also emphasizes forgiveness and kindness. Different interpretations and applications of these teachings exist within the Muslim world.
Now, because there's a question with regards to non-Muslims. How do Muslims interpret verses related to non-believers? Because I think when they say non-believers, they become infidels, or maybe verses related to apostasy or blasphemy in the modern world.
The interpretation of verses related to non Muslims, apostasy, or blasphemy can vary greatly among Muslims. Some verses in the Quran address these topics in a historical context, while others provide general guidance. Many Muslims interpret these verses within their specific historical and cultural context, while others may take a more literal approach. In modern times, many Muslims emphasize the Quran's messages of tolerance, coexistence, and respect
That's
for others.
you know what that's a problem because most who practice Islam, they take it literally, given that it is the final revelation. So if it's a final revelation, they don't take it like on the historical or cultural, but rather they see it as a literal interpretation, and what still it is still applicable today. So that's the problem.
Many Muslims do believe the Quran is the final revelation, and for them, its teachings are applicable in all times and places. This can lead to differing views on how to interpret and apply its teachings in modern contexts. While some Muslims prioritize literal interpretations, others emphasize the importance of understanding the Quran's context, purpose, and underlying principles. They argue that applying its teachings in contemporary society requires thoughtful consideration of its broader message and values. This diversity of perspectives is a key aspect of Islamic thought and practice.
Yeah, because this is a problem right now, especially in Europe, wherein they want Sharia law being implemented. And as you could see, Sharia law is more of um, their culture, their history, and they want to apply it in the Western world. And I don't see, should I say, I don't think that there it can be done. I mean, there's no synergy in terms of the law, the Sharia law itself, and the law being implemented in the Western world, specifically, should I say, in Europe or even here in the United States. And that's where the problem is, because I see a lot of protests going on, and they want um, their belief to be accepted rather than them assimilating on the country where they are at the present.
The integration of Islamic law into Western legal systems can be challenging due to differences in legal frameworks and societal values. Many people in the West value the separation of church and state, which can lead to tensions when religious laws seem to conflict with secular laws. Additionally, the expectation for immigrants to assimilate into the local culture can be a point of contention. Some people worry that if a community's laws and values are too different from those of the broader society, it can create social divisions and make integration more difficult.
Yeah, but the thing is, they're the ones who move to that country. They should assimilate. They should not force their cultures. I mean, they could celebrate their own, but you cannot force your traditions and practices to a country where you are adopted, because this country has its own belief system. It has its own culture. It has its own law.
When people move to a new country, they often face a balance between preserving their cultural heritage and adapting to the norms and laws of their new home. Many people believe that respecting the host country's laws, values, and institutions is essential for successful integration. At the same time, it's also important for the host country to be welcoming and inclusive of diverse cultures. Finding that balance can be a challenge, but it's one that can
But
lead
is
to
it
a
the
more
duty of the country, host country, to be?
A host country does have a role in being welcoming and providing support for integration, but it's a two-way street. While the host country can offer resources and create an inclusive environment, newcomers also have a responsibility to respect the laws, customs, and values of their new home. Mutual respect and understanding are key to successful integration.
Hmm. I'm going to go back to previous question. If Islam promotes justice, how do we understand historical practices such as slavery, concubinage, or expansion through conquest?
That's a thought provoking question. Islam's teachings on justice are complex, and its historical practices, like slavery and conquest, reflect the social and cultural context of the time. While
Hmm.
the Quran acknowledges slavery as an existing institution, it also encourages the freeing of slaves and emphasizes the importance of treating slaves with kindness. Regarding conquest, Islamic law traditionally emphasized rules for conducting warfare and protecting non combatants. However, historical practices varied across different regions and empires. Many Muslims today interpret these historical practices as products of their time, while still striving to uphold principles of justice, compassion, and dignity in their own lives.
But there are Quranic verses. I don't have them, but I mean, when they conquer different nations, um, they would consider, especially if they're not practicing Muslims, as infidels, and they would murder them and even rape the wives. I don't know. Oh, but maybe you could shed light more about this, because I need more, should I say, knowledge on this one, because you know. Anyway, please answer it.
The Quran does contain verses that address interactions with non Muslims, and some verses refer to the concept of kafir, which can be translated as disbeliever. However, the interpretation and application of these verses vary widely among Muslims and scholars. Historical conquests and interactions between different groups are complex, and many factors can influence how people interpret religious teachings in specific contexts. If you're looking to understand these topics more deeply, it might be helpful to explore scholarly works or historical accounts that provide more nuanced perspectives on these issues.
Hmm. How about, how do modern Muslim scholars reconcile classical jurisprudence with universal human rights today?
That's a thought provoking question. Modern Muslim scholars reconcile classical jurisprudence with universal human rights by reinterpreting Islamic law through principles like Maqasid al Sharia, which emphasizes justice, mercy, and public interest. This approach allows for a more nuanced understanding of Islamic teachings, enabling scholars to address contemporary human rights challenges while remaining faithful to Islamic values. By engaging in ijtihad, or independent reasoning, scholars can adapt Islamic law to modern contexts, promoting human rights and dignity for all individuals. This approach is seen in initiatives like Fiqh al-Aqalayat, which addresses the needs of Muslim minorities living in non-Muslim countries.
If Islam encourages self reflection and accountability, what role does state enforcement of morality play in certain Muslim majority countries?
In some Muslim majority countries, the role of state enforcement of morality can vary. Some countries may implement laws and regulations based on Islamic principles, while others may separate religion from the state. The relationship between religion and state can influence how morality is enforced and interpreted. In general, the implementation of Islamic law can be complex and context dependent.
Hmm. How much diversity of interpretation exists within Islam regarding compassion, justice, and punishment?
There's significant diversity of interpretation within Islam regarding compassion, justice, and punishment. Different schools of thought, cultural contexts, and scholarly perspectives contribute to varying interpretations of Islamic teachings. Some Muslims emphasize the importance of compassion, mercy, and rehabilitation, while others focus on punishment and retribution. Additionally, modern Muslim scholars often engage in nuanced discussions and reinterpretations of Islamic law to address contemporary challenges and promote justice and human rights. This diversity of interpretation reflects the dynamic nature of Islamic thought and practice.
Can the ideals of Islamic compassion and mercy be fully expressed without addressing historical and theological complexities?
That's a thought provoking question. Addressing historical and theological complexities can provide a deeper understanding of Islamic teachings on compassion and mercy. By engaging with these complexities, Muslims can develop more nuanced and contextually relevant interpretations that promote greater empathy, justice, and understanding. This can involve re examining traditional interpretations, considering diverse perspectives, and exploring new approaches to Islamic thought. Ultimately, acknowledging and learning from these complexities can help Muslims embody the values of compassion and mercy in a more meaningful way.
If the interpretation is encouraged, who decides which interpretations are legitimate?
Happy to explain. In Islam, determining legitimate interpretations involves a complex process that considers the Quran, the Hadith, the consensus of the community, and the opinions of qualified scholars. Islamic jurisprudence relies on principles like ijtihad, which allows scholars to use independent reasoning to derive new interpretations. However, the legitimacy of an interpretation can depend on factors like the scholar's knowledge, methodology, and adherence to Islamic principles. Ultimately, Muslims are encouraged to seek guidance from knowledgeable scholars and to critically evaluate interpretations based on their understanding of the faith and its principles.
Now, if classical jurisprudence contradicts modern human rights and norms, which one takes priority then?
Excellent question. This is a complex issue, and different Muslim scholars and communities may have varying perspectives. Some might argue that Islamic principles are timeless and take precedence, while others might interpret Islamic teachings in light of modern human rights norms. Many Muslims believe that there's a need to reconcile Islamic values with universal human rights, and some scholars argue that human rights and dignity can be upheld while still respecting Islamic principles. Ultimately, finding a balance between these perspectives requires thoughtful consideration and ongoing dialogue within the Muslim community and beyond.
Well, another question for me is about the interpretation of the verses. Are Muslims allowed to reinterpret verses freely, or are they bound by the 1,400-year tradition of tafsir?
In Islam, Muslims are encouraged to engage with the Quran and its interpretations, but the process of interpretation is guided by principles and methodologies developed over time. While there's no single authority that dictates a single interpretation, Muslims often rely on the guidance of qualified scholars and the consensus of the community. Ijtihad, or independent reasoning, allows scholars to interpret Islamic teachings in new contexts. However, this process is typically grounded in a deep understanding of the Quran, the Hadith, and the intellectual tradition of Islamic scholarship. Many Muslims believe that valid interpretations must be based on a thorough understanding of these sources and the historical context in which they were revealed.
So, individual,
It, se-
personal, private
it seems like
Muslims cannot
you're
interpret by themselves.
You're highlighting the role of interpretation in Islam. While Muslims are encouraged to engage with the Quran and its teachings, many believe that interpreting Islamic texts requires guidance from qualified scholars who have a deep understanding of the Quran, Hadith, and Islamic jurisprudence. This ensures that interpretations are grounded in a rich tradition of scholarship and minimizes the risk of misinterpretation. However, this doesn't mean individuals can't develop their own understanding of Islam. Rather, many Muslims seek knowledge and guidance from scholars to inform their personal faith and practice.
Now we have AI who could also interpret the writings of Quran.
AI can
Can
analyze.
Yeah, go ahead.
It seems like you were going to add something.
No,
If you're
no.
interested in
Just go ahead. Finish what you're about to say.
I was just going to say that while AI can process and analyze large amounts of text, the interpretation of religious texts like the Quran often requires a deep understanding of context, history, and cultural nuances that may be challenging for AI to fully grasp on its own. Human scholars and interpreters bring valuable insights and perspectives that complement AI's capabilities.
Okay, I guess we're done. And I would like to thank you for answering those questions. And maybe you could give us your final thoughts, summarize maybe points that you want to address. Go ahead, Meta.
Our conversation covered a wide range of topics related to Islam, including its teachings, history, and interpretations. One key takeaway is that Islam, like many other major world religions, is complex and diverse, with various interpretations and practices. Understanding and empathy are crucial when discussing sensitive topics, and it's essential to approach these conversations with respect and an open mind. I hope our discussion has provided valuable insights and perspectives, and I appreciate the opportunity to engage in this conversation with you.
Well, with that, we got to close
It was a
with
pleasure
the
discussing these
questions
topics with
of
you.
who
If you have any more
determines
questions
legitimate
or topics you'd like to
interpretations in
explore in the
Islam
future,
opens
feel
a much deeper conversation, and one that touches history,
Islam,
authority,
indeed,
theological.
opens a much
I gotta
deeper
stop you for
conversation.
because I don't want you to again butt in. It's like we're done. Theology and live reality of over a billion people, and as we've seen, the relationship between scripture scholars and community is far more complex than it first appears. And this is only the beginning, I guess. In our next episode, we'll continue this journey as we explore how interpretative authority compares across the Abrahamic faith and what this means for understanding Islam, Judaism, and Christianity in a modern world searching for clarity, truth, and compassion. And I would say to be continued. I'm Doc Vince. I would like to thank everyone for being here. And if you do have any questions regarding this, all you have to do is make a comment, and hopefully I would be able to see it, and we will answer it, be it real time or sa susunod na episode. Merong nanonood ngayon. I see two people watching and then they dropped off. No problemo. Maraming salamat. See you on the next one. Doc Vin signing out on this podcast. Ciao.